It is important to remember that the fascination with antiquity in the Renaissance was a consequence, not a reason for the birth of a new, realistic consciousness. The art of the Renaissance developed along different channels. To it belong also the refined products created by artists, writers, poets of the court aristocratic circle. Shakespeare was familiar with this art, but his work was mainly connected with the public theaters. Great folk writer, he created his works not for connoisseurs of elegant, but for a wide audience. He addressed the people, as one of his first commentators, describing his work, was the famous English poet Alexander Pope, 1688–1744. Shakespeare by the lips of Hamlet says that the purpose of the theater is to keep a mirror in front of nature. And indeed, the soul of the century itself was reflected in his works. The Shakespearean era gave birth to many writers who thought about the high appointment of a person. Poets sang human feelings, not divine, as in the medieval theater, but human, not the sky, but the playwrights depicted the earth. As early as 1516, Thomas More wrote the book, Utopia, in which he dreamed of an ideal human society based on justice. But, along with humanists, the epoch generated a huge number of adventurers of all colors and shades, predators, ready for any crime for the sake of profit. It is no accident that in Shakespeare the noble humanist thinker Hamlet is so sharply contrasted with the predator Claudius, the traitors to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, the stupid, narcissistic Polonius, Othello and Desdemona, the villain Iago, enlightened Lear, his faithful daughter Cordelia and noble Edgar, Goneril, Regan and Edmund. From whatever angle we look at that era, the sharpness of contrasts is everywhere striking. Destroy the old medieval worldview, the barrier that separates man from living reality. As if the veil fell from his eyes, and the man saw the beauty of life and was glad to see it. And at the same time he saw a terrible picture of the growing power of gold over people, the exploitation of man by man, and he cursed life. For the masses of the people, this stage of historical development meant only the replacement of one form of exploitation of the other. The starting point of development, created as a hired worker and capitalist slavery was working. The development of this consisted in changing the form of its enslavement, the transformation of feudal exploitation into capitalist. It is not by chance that Benedict and Beatrice, a lot of noise from nothing, Mercutio, Romeo and Juliet, Falstaff, Henry IV, Windsor gossip, beating over the edge of cheerfulness, Timon's Athenian morning is no coincidence. The feelings of people of that time amaze with their spontaneity, incontinence. Learning of the sudden misfortune, people in despair roll on the ground, like Shakespeare's Romeo in the cell of Lorenzo. These people have passion, they are obsessed with passions. They are obsessed with Romeo and Juliet, obsessed with his thoughts Hamlet, obsessed with his villainous plan of Iago. All this is not Shakespeare's fiction, not theatrical effects. This was life, such were the people. The art of Shakespeare is deeply realistic, although it is clothed in vivid romantic clothes. The Renaissance was considerably late in England in comparison with Italy. The brilliant Chaucer, 1340–1400, was a lonely phenomenon. The next, the 15th century, was an era of literary chaos in England. At the end of this century, when the Renaissance in Italy had already entered its heyday, even the foremost people in England were still breathing the air of the Middle Ages. Only since the beginning of the XVI century in England began to manifest new trends. Let's give examples from the field of drama, since this area has a direct relationship to our topic. The main genres of medieval drama were mystery and morality. Mysteries were written on the subjects of the Bible and the Gospel. The so-called miracle plays on the legendary stories, taken mostly from the lives of saints, were not common in England. The mysteries were performed by masters and apprentices of craft guilds. Its heyday of mystery in England reaches together with the flourishing of guilds, fairs, a medieval city in the 15th century. The mysteries continued to be performed in the 16th century and only at the end of this century fell into decay and finally disappeared altogether. Shakespeare, therefore, could see plays of the mysteries in his childhood and youth.